Okay, so great to see everybody. I'm just gonna do a few words of introduction again, which is a little bit strange because there's very little to introduce. There's nothing to introduce. This is very simple, just a very simple expression. There's nothing to it at all. It's just a statement or a direct expression of all there is being this. That's all we're talking about. There isn't anything extra that you have to get or something very clever that's kind of hidden in that statement. It's just an expression that there can't be anything else but this. This is immediacy. This is just what is. There isn't a way of kind of being able to observe that from some other place or some other situation. There's no other situation. There's no body that can actually kind of be outside, like, observing this. There isn't anybody there that could observe this. There's just this. There's not and there's nowhere to get to. There's no place to get to. There's no way of actually getting to this, because all there is this, which is just kind of annoying for that sort of quality which is trying to find something. All that seems to happen is that there's a looking, a seeking, an exploration of trying to find, and then that just collapses. That just runs out of energy. It just doesn't have any more will to go on in that process. That's what seems to happen. And then there's just what's left is just what always was, which is just what is. This is being a toddler. This isn't very clever at all. This is being you could say it's kind of stupefaction. It's kind of like it's not actually anything which is remarkable or intelligent, or you need to get something. This is really when we're little kids playing in the playground or whatever, we don't think about any of this. It's just direct. It's just immediate. And that's always the same, that what is there is immediate. The only thing that sort of covers that up is the sort of seeming seeking for something else, for something that could be special or interesting, flying to the other side of the world to try to find a really beautiful thing, like a sunset or a kind of very significant thing, and the crisp packet on the side of the road being completely irrelevant. No, there's nothing that's, there's trying to seeking for beauty or seeking for a kind of a marvelous experience is not what this is about. This isn't about something being special and that something else not being special, something else being not interesting or important. This is unconditional neutrality. Everything is in a way equal, level, neutral. That isn't to say that you don't have preferences towards one thing or another thing. There's lots of preferences, but the seeking is always seeking something special. And there's nothing special about this at all. This is absolutely normal. And the wonderful thing is that normality. the wonderful thing is that you don't have to go and get it. You don't have to search, don't have to do anything. This is just, in a way, just a complete relaxation. It's a deep relaxation that can't be really described, but it's just something just is, it's something's seems to be happening, something's happening, and then it's the end of happening. So it's the end of reaching, that sort of carrot on a string, or the rainbow that you're trying to. Why can't the rainbow just be that? Why do you have to find the end of it? you know so that's it, really. That's all I wanted to say. um and yeah, this is completely free discussion, so if you want to say something or you want to ask a question, then please do. Of course, I'm not ever going to answer your question, because there's nobody that can really answer questions. What tends to happen is that there is just an undermining of the questioner. Or just the pointing out that where that question is coming from is often trying to find something which I cannot give you the answer to, unfortunately, or fortunately. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, be my guest.
Hi, David. Could I ask a
Oh,
question?
hi, Jamie. Yes, hi.
Yeah, I'm new here. This is my first session.
Yeah,
I've
nice
been
to.
following. Sorry, I've been following
Yes.
Tony for maybe 5 years, and so I've been on the non-duality roller coaster for a while. And I thought I had it 5 years ago. I really thought that it was the collapse of everything, but I've been through up and down, quite a bit of turmoil that's challenged that vision. And I guess it comes down to a question here. Um, my understanding is that there's preferences and there's a seeker, but Tony, and you always make a distinction between the preferences and the seeker. And I was wondering if you could tell me more about the difference between um, how you see the preferences versus the seeker, because they're two different things from what I understand. Thank you.
Sure. Um, I love how Tony describes these things, and yes, but I'll try to express that in my own way of doing that. Um, Probably not as eloquently as him, but basically, uh, from the what is sensed here is that preferences are just instinctive. They're just a response. So you could describe preferences as instinct. So it's got nothing to do with a me being involved. There's no body that makes any choice about anything. There only there seems to be, somebody there in there kind of making, a choice, but there isn't anyone. That's the me. The me isn't a me. It's a me state. I always call it the me state. It's not an entity, a little thing called myself that's making choices. It's just a contraction of energy, which comes and goes. It's not just always like that. It just comes and goes. So it's not it's something which has got no power at all. It's got no, um, you know, Tony often described it as being impotent. It's got no power, no energy of it. No, there's nothing in there that's doing something. There's just instinct, which is going on all the time, and then the me state kind of contracts around that instinct, and it slows that instinctive response and makes it sort of yeah, it just sort of stuffs things up. It just sort of it's sort of it dams up instinctive response. And it can make things much slower than other animals. There's, other animals, for example, we look at other animals, the instinctive response is absolutely immediate. It's completely spontaneous. And with human beings, that's slowed down. That's why humans heal much slower. We respond much slower. So there's that sort of that me state contractive quality actually is something that kind of makes the human body, I would say, more inefficient. But preferences in that way, I would describe as an instinctive response. That make sense
Yeah.
to you?
Yeah, there was another question that came up while you were talking because you said that the
Yes.
the contracted state it comes and it goes. Sometimes when we're far away on social media, we can get the impression that there's like a sort of permanence over there that your state has gone and it never returns. And I was just wondering, like, what is the validity of that? Like, does it ever contract over there again, uh, or have you reached a point where it doesn't contract anymore?
What I haven't reached anything. I
Okay.
mean, what actually sort of seems to happen is that there isn't that whole seeking energy just sort of falls away. And so it's sort of like um
Has
yeah,
it
I
fallen
mean,
away, like, permanently, though? Because you kinda carry a confidence to yourself that you won't have to, like, deal with it again in the future, I suppose.
because it's sort of the end of an illusion. It's the end
Mm,
of something that never really was an absolute thing. And as I was saying, that sort of entity, there's this idea that there's an entity of or something that's seeking, trying to find something, and then that sort of just that energy of that seeking just falls away, and then there's nothing to kind of reconstruct itself on. It's
mm.
sort of like an illusion. It's see, like an illusionist, you kind of see the kind of sleight of hand, and you kind of go, oh, yeah, it's in a way,
And you could never be tricked again?
it's not that I can't be tricked again. It's that actually the trick sort of falls apart.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the thing. It's not a question of there being a person in there that is actually, in a way, that sort of person or the me state is the trick.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying, I'm just kinda
Yeah.
speaking reflexively by mistake, but I do understand what you're saying.
I know, and I know. I'm sorry to be picky with the words, but it is just really that. I mean, the best way that I can describe it is that whole questioning of things doesn't happen. So that's why there's, in a certain sense, you could say it's a kind of confidence, although I
Mm,
don't know whether I would call it a confidence. It's just a sort of an emptiness that it's empty of questions. It's empty of the process of trying to get somewhere, to seek something. So then because there's just an emptiness of that, then it just directly sort of expresses.
it
Um,
appears like confidence, kind of.
yeah, it might be. It might appear
Okay,
like that,
okay.
but it isn't really a confidence of like my confidence. Like I am
Mm,
a confident now, a confident person, and I've got everything sorted out. It's nothing like that at all. It's
mm.
just actually there's just how to yeah just what it is. It's just an expression of that, like a child's expressing themselves. In a way, it's kind of like that, just like a child is the best way to describe it. In a way, like a child or a dog or an animal. In a way,
Mm.
it's a bit more like that. um yeah, it's that coming back in a way would kind of be like a sort of um like a reconstruction of an idea of myself which has already fallen away. So it's very difficult for that to sort of re-emerge, I would
Mm.
say.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think somebody had their hands up. It's Uzuma. Yeah.
Yes, I
Hi.
did.
Hi. Am
Hi,
I pronouncing your name right? Is that right?
Lauren.
Sorry, there's Lauren as well. I didn't see
Oh,
Lauren.
somebody else can go if
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll sign on in a minute. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, sorry, Lauren. Yes. Uzuma, is
It's
that correct?
Uzma.
Uzma, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Um, just to understand what you were saying earlier, there can be a preference, for example, for traveling the world and enjoying the stimulation. And then the contracted energy can claim that and hope for fulfillment out of that activity. Is that the
Yeah,
difference in the seeker and
yes,
the
I mean, I used to I travel. I still travel a little bit with other work that I do, but there's a sort of a seeking for a home, or seeking for something where you're going to find something. So you just keep seeking, and that's a very can be an external, quite an external seeking in a way. Um, but there's a sort of looking for fulfillment in everything. It's not in just it's a constant looking for fulfillment. Um, it's like a drive that kind of keeps you going, um, up the mountain, even though you feel tired.
Hmm.
I don't know whether that makes sense to you, but it's kind of like you might feel tired, but you're going to try and get there anyway, because it's definitely going to be over the other side of that mountain somewhere, you know, that kind of thing. But there can be a natural quality of exploration, your natural interest in things, all of those things still go on. Just like a child, again, just like a small child, it's playful, it's very playful. It can just want to investigate things. You might want to stay there, might not want to. You might want to, do things. There's no control over that. It is a constant moving towards what is pleasurable because that's simply what is natural. But yeah, that's all.
So there can be a passion for mountain climbing, but not like an obsession with climbing all the mountains in the world, for example. That's a subtle difference.
Yes, or there being a sort of ideology that you can get something at the top of the mountain that somehow, yes, fulfillment is going to come in some way. Because it's not anywhere at all. There isn't anywhere that you can find everything because it already is everything. So you don't have to go anywhere. And you could go everywhere. So it's the same. That's what I'm sort of was saying. There's something which is uh, uh, yes, unconditional, neutral quality to that. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, David.
Yeah, okay. No problem. Lauren, sorry about that. Yes, please. If you can unmute yourself, Lauren,
Sorry about
great.
that. Yeah, it took
Yeah.
me a minute to find the button. Um, so
Hi.
it's, hi, how are you?
Yes, thank you. Kids, yes. Yes.
Great.
Okay.
So it's funny you use the analogy of the rainbow, because I was going to ask you about the pot of gold in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, I had, it's a very like real world kind of question. Um, I yesterday or the day before, someone was supposed to pay me back quite a lot of money, and they didn't. And it's it's like all of the manifestation teachings would suggest that it's sort of me who's resisting it or whatever, you know. But you know, then I spoke to another person and they were like, maybe that person just has no morals, you know. But when I look at, you know, my career in spirituality, like there's so many different ways to interpret this situation. And it's kind
Yeah.
of maddening because it's just very practical. It's like I just need the money, you know? And
Yeah. I mean, and that, yeah. I mean, there's no, all of those things are all about something, becoming something. So becoming, it's always a sort of process of becoming a more moral person, or a person that can manifest things, or a person that can't manifest things. There's always a sort of process of becoming something, which associates with a sort of time. you know I'm like this now, I will be like this at another point. I'm
yeah.
getting better. And time is completely irrelevant. It doesn't There's nothing that is time. There's just immediacy. There isn't anything else. So in this immediacy, there's the irritation of not having money.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just what it is. That's what it is. Now one can interpret that in 100 different ways. And if you have a particular spiritual leaning, you will interpret that in a very particular way. And it will probably be due to, probably have something to do with you becoming better in some way, or the other person being worse or negative in some way.
Hmm.
So there will always be this sort of there will always be this sort of better and worse, good and bad sort of things that are going on. Whereas it is actually frustratingly, it's frustrating, and that's what it is, because you need that money for whatever it is.
Hmm.
But that is all it is, which is amazing, because the whole story is just completely diffuses.
Yeah. The frustration doesn't diffuse
No,
though.
no, I mean, it's still irritating, of course. And that's what it is. I mean, the frustration will eventually diffuse, because it
Right.
always, but ultimately the story associated with, you know, getting money or not getting money, and that having something to do with a kind of process, or something to do with a becoming process,
Mhm.
that is just no longer relevant at all. It's just, you know, show me the money. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting what you said about the instincts. When I was doing a lot of meditation and this rewilding, as I would call it, like lifestyle of, anyway, it seemed like the instincts were very like, you know, immediate, not immediate, but like very unencumbered by the mind. And but I wouldn't have said that like I had fallen away or anything dramatic had happened. And it was after that that I found this message and stopped seeking in that way, and now feel a little more like behind several layers of stories. So it's ironic, you know.
I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, when I think that when people do come across this kind of statement, I like to call it a statement, because there is no real message here, right? So, but yeah, when people do come across this, there is a lot of um, ideas, the manifestation ideas, various other things that do tend to fall away. And also that there can be a complete end of sort of trying to seek in that spiritual way, or the end of questions even about anything to do with any of this. Um, and yet there's still a sense of separation. And that sense of separation, in a certain sense, is kind of like the last question. It's not really a question which is verbal. It's an energetic, questioning of reality, or whatever you want to describe it. A questioning of what is,
Yeah.
and that sort of tends to be in the sort of background for a lot of people, seemingly.
Mhm. So if I had not all this, you know, well, I don't know if I would like investment or anxiety around the situation, I would have better instincts for how to, negotiate for the money.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a process of becoming better, but it most more, yes, your better instincts rather than instincts, I mean, no, I mean, I don't think there's any better way. I think that there's just frustration, and then frustration at some point will end, either because you get your money or because something will um or just simply that energy of the tension around it will fall away.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Agnes.
Hello, David.
Hi, Agnes.
I hope I can express what I wanted to ask, because when I listen to the message, just all disappears from my head. But
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was when you were talking about the contraction in the body.
Yes.
I was asking myself if that is a function of the nervous system, that this contractness appears, because all in the body is like ruled by the nervous system. I don't, maybe I'm lacking a few words because I'm from Germany, so I'm sorry.
No, that's, I completely understand. Thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean what it, we can just I would call it a contraction of energy. I could call it a quality of a contraction of energy, a sense of contraction. It's not real in the same way that we would in saying that it's an absolute thing that you can say this is exactly what's happening. It's not like that. And identify this thing. You can't do it. You can't express it like that. But there is a quality, a seeming sense of contraction. And that, of course, will involve the nervous system. Yes, definitely. It will involve the nervous system. It involves all of the systems of the body. It's in a way, what you could say is that everything is energy. And there seems to be, for a lot of human beings, a quality of contraction that is a felt sense, and that will, of course, involve the neurological aspect, but not just that. I mean, what we're looking at in a way is that scientific picture of the body, and Western science has got quite a limited picture of the body. So it's but yes, I definitely, the nervous system is involved. Yes.
And would you say that that there's not always the same contractedness, but it's different in every body? It's more.
Yes, it's
somebody,
different.
yeah,
It's different. It fluctuates. It's
yeah,
not a steady, constant thing for most people.
yeah,
It's not. It doesn't. And also, in a certain sense, that contraction has to let go within a 24-hour period. In order to go into deep sleep, that contraction has to completely fall away. So it's not, otherwise you don't sleep deeply, and that can't carry on for very long. So somehow the me state just falls away, comes back, falls away, comes back. When people are extremely focused in something which is involving the whole body, the whole energy, doesn't exist. Yeah, it's impossible. to to do some of the if you see sports people or whatever doing some of the things that they do, the me would just slow everything down so much that the responses wouldn't be there. So things like that, immediate responses to immediate things that need to happen, stop, whatever it is, emergency responses, responses to things that are very hot, very cold, whatever. These things are happening all the time. It's immediate response, and that doesn't have to be in extreme situations. It's just but the me isn't a constant state. It is a state. In fact, it's the only state.
I would be curious if it's possible for you to describe how this contractedness felt when there was someone. And
well, for this, it felt like a sort of depression. I think there was a sort of constant sort of quality of depression or tension in the body that I couldn't quite, a scratch that you can't quite itch. It's something that you can't quite get to. And a sort of a sort of constant feeling of needing to find a resolution to the problem. And that comes together, that contraction comes together with seeking. It's one thing. Because if there is that contraction, the body naturally tries to find a solution to it. Tries to find lots of different solutions. Somebody will say, oh, there's a solution here, and you'll try and do that, and but it doesn't, it's not a thing that you can get to, because the thing that's trying to get to is the thing. It's this, this loop of me trying to resolve me, the me state trying to resolve itself, which is impossible.
And so you described it that it wasn't a bodily sense, but more this depression state, and what can be also very bodily, of course.
Yes, it was a bodily sense as well. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that there was a bodily sense until that sort of fell away, and then I did notice that there was more relaxation.
So probably it's not possible to describe how it feels without this tension or contraction.
Well, I mean, or the only way that I would say is that it's just less tense. There seems to be more relief in a certain. It's a relief. It's a breath out. It's a sigh of relief. Not needing to seek, not needing to ask questions, and actually there just being what there is, which is enough. That's the sort of wonder, in a certain sense, the wonder of things. That sort of is there, and everybody knows what that is. That everybody has it. There's a sense of that I haven't met anybody that doesn't have a sense of that. It's just that there's often an imagination, a fantasy that I had for this body had for a very long time, of there being some solution to it, at some there's some being a way that I could resolve it. And it's only when there was a sort of as I say, just there's some quality of this sort of dissolving or burning out, that sort of the question no longer was relevant anymore. It just says is just the energy to create. There's energy that is involved in creating questions around this. In seeking, seeking is a sort of quality of energy which has got a drive to it, and that sort of just, yeah, that's all that's sort of in the way.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
Pleasure, yeah.
Do you mind if I ask another question, David?
Of course. Yeah. Hi, Jamie. Hi.
Hey. So I was thinking about the contractionless energy, and in my experience, when the contraction falls away sometimes, as I get involved in like an activity that I really enjoy and I lose track of myself, I could get sucked back into that by if I'm around people who are in the contracted state. And I notice that like you're here in front of a bunch of people who are seemingly contracted and not getting sucked back into the state. And I was just wondering, like, it's kind of hard to formulate the question, but does the contracted state have any sort of effect on the uncontracted state?
No, I mean, no. There's no, well, there isn't anyone there to have an effect on. I mean that when there's a contraction, I mean, even if there's a, I think that there's when there's that when the me state is sort of active, you could just describe that perhaps like that seems to be sort of in this activity, then it just it will always be affected by other me's, because there's a quality of contraction that is sort of not normal. There's a sort of a one me is constantly sort of is recognizing themselves from another me. It's one and two. There's two aspects to it, you and me. But when there isn't that sense any longer of there being a me there, then there's no one and two anymore.
As if it's one organism?
It's just what is. I mean, that even that ideology of kind of like there being one organism or having a thought about that isn't really there. There isn't really a thought about what it is that's going on anymore. It's just what's happening. It's just immediacy. There isn't a sort of like observing what's going on. There's often this sort of observing quality that happens, slight detachment, I would describe that as, and that can what that can be like is that everything becomes very quiet and there's a sort of observational sort of thing and you're just looking at things. This is quite different to what we're talking about with this. This is the end of that observational aspect. There's no observer anymore. So when there's no observer, there's no, that's the end of the sort of that's the sort of me looking over there, if you like. Yeah, so the collapse of that means that there's no more you and me, there's just what is.
That does sound quite nice.
Well, it just feels, as I said, there's a relief in it. There's not a sense of You know, I think that the previously, you know, what seemed to be was that this body was very, you know, the me state here was very paranoid. It is certain. I mean, it is a natural kind of. It's a state of paranoia. The me state. You know, it does. It is the sort of basis of conspiracy. That's where conspiracy originates. There's only one, you know, conspirator, which is the me state, you know. So
Yeah.
that's it. And so that the tension around that was that is a quite significant difference between the two, you know, if you like. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you for hosting these meetings. It's like I can't find this kind of talk anywhere else in the world. So
It's a really a pleasure, you know, really. It's just lovely to talk to you. Yeah.
thank you.
David, with the
Yes.
collapse of the observer, there's no longer any stories about social dynamics. Like you're not thinking in terms of this person's manipulative, I need to act with them this way. This person over here is narcissistic, so I need to stay away. Like that, those kind of stories, do those collapse too?
I
And then,
mean, no, that I mean, it depends how that goes. I mean, if there is a story around, you know, a certain, you know, a person being a narcissist and me being, you know, victimized by something, then yes, that can fall away. But there isn't a stopping of sensing people. You know, you can sense people and kind of and there can be a preference towards one person or another, and if there is that sort of, you know, quality of that sort of bullyish energy or narcissistic energy, whatever, and you know, you sense that is what that energy is, there can be a complete avoidance of that type of person, and in a certain sense it can happen more more strongly in a way, you know. You just actually completely avoid that energy because it just doesn't work with you. I mean, if you think about cats and dogs and children, right? They'll just go directly round people like that if they don't find them interconnective, or they'll rush up to them and, you know, hug them or, you know, wag the tail or whatever. It's just, it's a natural thing. There's a natural quality that goes on, but there isn't the sort of story any longer of me and them, and you know how you know the sort of processing about, you know, how that would play out in a way, you know. It's not really about that. It's not it doesn't have that content anymore because there's no body there to have that for there to be a basis for that kind of content. There's just a moving away and a moving towards, like a magnet. You what is there is a magnet. This is a magnet. So, yeah.
I've heard speakers say that without a contracted energy or without a me, there's still conditioning in the body. So there can be fear of driving because you were in a car accident in the past, or there can be a fear of heights or whatever, and that can stick around.
Yes,
It
trauma.
doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily fall away.
traumatic. Yeah, traumatic stuff. Yeah.
Can that apply to human beings too, like a fear of a certain group of people or certain social settings because you were traumatized in those situations in the past, like that kind of anxiety or stress with other people, other
I
bodies?
think Yeah, I mean, I think that the different bodies have got different qualities to them. Some people have got more sensitivity than others, and that's completely natural. And there's nothing, there's nothing that would suggest otherwise. And then there's traumatic responses. There can be trauma and sort of neurosis, like a neurological loop in a way that happens because of a traumatic experience. And whether there's a me or there's no me, that can still be a trigger, but it isn't fed anymore. So it isn't going to be a trauma that kind of keeps on, I would say, going off at the same rate. It's a trauma that's sort of falling away. It doesn't have the same. It's not being fed anymore by a story around that trauma, that this is my trauma.
Right.
There's no my trauma, and also there's no past, which is where trauma exists. Where the story of trauma, should I say, exists. This happened to me at this time, and so there's a long story around what trauma is. Yeah. So that just doesn't come up. Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you, David.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Marianne. Hi.
So nobody ask questions. I think that I am here and I ask any questions, but nobody is here.
No, I mean there is nobody, and there is nobody asking questions, and there's nobody answering questions, because there isn't a person, an entity called me in there. It's just just not, it isn't there. There's nothing there. But what seems to happen is that the me state, in its contractive sense, expresses something. It's, in a way, it's just the questions are a kind of are the expression or the voice of the me state. The voice of the me state comes out in questions. It's completely natural for that contraction to express itself, and the way that it does that is through questions. And those questions keep going without, of course, being answered, because of course they can't be answered, because there's nobody. What you want is somebody to kind of say, this is what it is, but of course there isn't anything that is this. It's already everything. So that questioning expresses and expresses and expresses, and then it doesn't. It just falls away for no reason or purpose, because there is no reason, no meaning or purpose. So it just there's just a letting go, and then those questions don't come up anymore. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just going to turn the light on. It's getting a bit dark, isn't it? Yeah. Barbara.
Hi, David. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can, Barbara. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Thank you for putting on these meetings. They're amazing. You mentioned that the me state falls away in deep sleep and then returns upon awakening. how does the me state remember to come back?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
why does it come back?
it might not, you know, I mean,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
not, there's no rules to this,
Mm.
you know. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, there's this idea that, you know, you're going to go to sleep at night and then wake up in the morning.
Mhm.
Well, that doesn't all, I mean, that doesn't always happen.
Right.
That doesn't, you know, that as you know, it's not always what seems to happen.
Right. Just most of the time, I guess.
Most of the time, yeah. Most of the time, it seems to happen. You know, that's the idea in this story. There is this sort
Mhm.
of continuum of me, but there is no
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
So it's strange
Yeah, because here
because
it was nicely gone, in deep sleep,
yeah,
just shoo, nicely gone, and then sheesh, in the morning, the me state is back.
yeah. It seems to be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what will happen. What's, you know, it doesn't mean that that's a continuous process. That
Right.
the continuousness is just an illusion of the me state. In a certain sense, what the me in a certain sense is making sure that it, you know, that continuousness keeps going, keeps happening. That's what it
Mhm.
wants. It wants things to be continuous,
Mhm.
but there isn't anything that is continuous because there isn't any past. There is no past. There is no future. There's no time.
Mhm. Mhm. So the
So
deep sleep, oh, sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah. Mhm.
So like the deep sleep to the morning, to the night, deep sleep, like that seems like a cycle, but I understand that's an illusion, but it's just that the me state seems to factor into that illusion. So it just seems like it goes and comes back and goes and comes back.
Yeah, it seems like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It isn't.
Mhm.
There's just immediacy.
Right.
But yes, you know, it seems that time is in a cycle,
Mhm.
and it seems that you know, I had breakfast and, you know, other things like that.
Right.
But this is all about you know, the me creating a story, which is where there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and
Mhm.
that somehow the end of me is the big, you know, the big thing. Um, there isn't an end of me. There's just because there wasn't ever a me. There can be a certain, in a certain sense, one could express it like the falling away of a sense of contraction.
Mhm. Thank you.
So yes, that's all. There's not the idea of what you're saying is that it's predictable, is there's a
Mhm.
predictable quality about it, and that you're going to wake up in the morning. Well, I'm sorry, but that is not the case. You have no idea. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so much.
thank you. Imran.
Hey David, you okay?
Oh, yeah, fine, thank you. Yeah, how you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see everybody. It's kind of similar to last time. There's been more fading away taking place here. And as that is happening, I'm not too bothered. People tell me it could all be in the story or whatever, but it's significant. And with that fading away, a sense of ease is constantly emerging. And what I'm finding, I was too hungry to put the video on earlier, but what I'm finding is that words that speakers speak and yourself, there's the resonance now is entirely different, and it's almost as if listening is taking place without listening. And yeah, a lot of what you've said this evening is just there's resonance here. It's relevant, if you like.
That one, I'm glad it's resonant. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that feels. I'm glad it's. Yeah.
And I think there's been a obvious reduction in cognitively trying to understand this and cognitively trying to somehow make this part of my seeking. There's been a substantial reduction in that, and that's a plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's for when I hear again, I think that there's this idea of sort of the betterment thing, you know, that there's a sort of process of sort of something getting better.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear what you're saying, is there's this idea that something is getting better.
Yeah.
I think for this, that's a sort of quality of seeking something better. You know,
Yes.
that I would see that in those terms. Now, what's going on there is what's going on there, but essentially, this has got no. There is no sort of discovery. You can't discover this. This is impossible to discover. This is absolutely unknowable. So there's a sort of yeah, that sort of unknowableness just takes over. It is just a dissolving of the desire to get somewhere. And that's the only thing that I would mention in there. Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah, that's fine, David. That you said really did resonate and make sense. Yeah, to no one. Yeah. David, there's also been a sort of realization that the me cannot possibly be conceptual in the slightest. It's not conceptual because otherwise I perhaps would have reasoned with it and it would have dissipated somehow. It really, there's been I don't know if conclusion is the right word, but there's been a realization here that it is very much ingrained and energetic. It's there. And then things like conceptualization, belief, comparisons, as you said, striving towards something, which is what the me inherently does. It's almost as if these things come afterwards, but I don't know if you could comment. It's energetic. It feels like it's ingrained.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that in a way ingrained, or I mean, if that, as I was saying, I think that those things are the natural voice of the me state. They just come out. It's the voice of that. That's just what happens. What seems to happen.
Yeah.
There's just the voice. That's the expression of these things. This seeking, this becoming. There's no good or bad about that. That's just what it is. It's just the energetic contraction impels the body expression in that particular way. It creates questions, it creates that, and then that carries on, and then it just doesn't. Then the questioner and the observer and the quality associated with that just evaporates.
Yeah, get it. Is the me seeking, like you described, the me state, questions arise. The me is seeking resolution on some level.
Well, the body, I mean, I would actually say that the body is tense. And when the body is tense, it is, you know, trying to get rid of this kind of itchy sweater, you know, or for want of a better word. It's trying to Yes, that's what you see in seeking. Seeking is the expression of that. It's the expression of that, a sort of struggle of there being a quality of tension that doesn't that it's trying to scratch, that it's trying to itch.
Yeah, I get
But it can't. It's something that is not resolvable. You know, I mean, it's like a flu.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do about that?
Lie down and rest. Yeah.
Well, whatever goes on is not under your control.
Yeah.
You know, it's nobody's control. You know, it's a completely natural quality. The me state is totally natural. There's nothing, you know, it's just what seems to happen with humans.
Yeah.
Human condition, you know, I think I quite like that, the human condition. You know, it's this the nature of how it seems humans are.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and not, you know.
I get it. Yeah, human condition is something, that I'm familiar with. I happen to have come across in the last few years. Yeah, kind of perfectly sums it up.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you, David.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just reading. So sorry, I've haven't read these messages here. There's M is saying there's an underlying sense of discontent. Yeah, the itchy jumper. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a sense of separation, sense of being separate. Lauren.
Hi. So, like you use the word magnet. Would you agree that like money, there could be a magnetism to money?
I mean, money in itself is it's a kind of collusion story, you know. It's a story which we get involved with. But I mean, you know, is there an attraction towards that, is what you're asking. I don't quite understand what you mean by that.
So I guess I understand what you're saying. I can hear, I believe, like the kind of tension dropping out and there being a deep relaxation that's undescribable. I mean, I don't know what that's like, but I know what it's not like. So, like, I know when the tension hasn't dropped out. Um, and then I understand that the tension leads to that seeking for something else. And so, in some ways, you know, something else could be flashy things like a nice car or things that money could buy. But then there's like the practical side to just like making ends meet, which is sort of a different thing because, you know, even like the way that you jump out of the way of the car as a natural reaction, you'd do the same like in buying groceries, for example. And so, like, without the seeking, there could still be like not a relationship with money, but money still arises as an issue in life.
Yeah, I mean, well,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, I mean, yeah, money is there's no just because there is no me involved, it doesn't mean that all of those kind of things that are in the human, you know, construction of how things work in the practical world, that suddenly becomes, you know, impossible to understand. And you know, it's a no,
Right.
that is all completely this. There's nothing that changes as far as that's that goes. You know, that there's nothing, you know, it's very obvious that all of these things are stories. It's very obvious that all of these things are stories, but they're stories that are kind of how the function of things work in the human world as it is at the moment. And so that's just yeah, it's just goes on.
Where I was going with it is that when there isn't like this kind of like grasping need in a way for the story of money, that
Yeah.
then it's like somehow just more natural, and in a way it could be more magnetic in that sense because energy kind of works.
Or less, you know, I mean, it could mean that you lose everything. You know, so yeah, I mean, there's two ways of thinking. I mean, yeah, I understand, you know, there's this kind of, you know, the big business guys say, you know, like, yeah, if you don't really want money, then it all comes towards you. And then there's, you know, all of that is just a story. That whole thing is just a story. The whole thing is just a story associated with, you know, this. So what I'm just pointing out is that very clearly it's that just because there is no me does not make you a millionaire. You know, not in the least. You know,
That's
I
funny.
think, yeah, you can ask pretty much most speakers about that. I think they'll have the same conclusion. But yeah, it doesn't it doesn't make you rich, you know, if there isn't an me and it could do, but it's not, there isn't anything that it's not going to do, you know. This is not a way to get something. The me is always sort of focused in a way of kind of getting something, and what is the benefits of there being no me. There's no benefits here because you know, there's no benefit, you know, and yeah, I mean, the me is not interested in this message at all. They're not interested in the statement of what is expressed here at all. What they're looking, what the me state is looking for is a solution to its sense of separateness. And if it believes that money is that solution, it will go after money, whatever happens.
Yeah. Wow, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice. Yeah, there are no benefits for me, you know, because there isn't a me, you know. So there's no the me state is a sort of constantly trying to find benefit, and that benefit is really about what it's looking for is everything. Is trying to find everything. So that would be the only sort of benefit for me, is when it would have everything, which of course is the crazy thing that's it's only when there is no me that all there is this, which is fulfillment in itself. So it's constantly it seems to be constantly hiding from the seeker. There isn't really a hiding going on, but it seems to be constantly veiled because of the energy of seeking. Barbara.
Hi, David. Thank you.
Hi. Hi.
So there's an understanding here that there's no one anywhere. But that said, there's still a sense of there being a me here.
Sure.
So my question is, what is it like there not to feel separate from anything?
It just feels relaxed. I mean, it's just relaxing. There's no experience like that I can tell you about, that I have the experience of being relaxed. There's just relaxation for no one.
Mm-hmm. So where are you? There's no you and there's no where. I'm not even sure about my question.
Yeah, that's the part. I mean, there isn't a location. That I think that's what you're. There's no. I mean, it's not even that. It's actually that there's no question about them. There's not a questioning about location anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually a better way of saying it. There's no questions about locating myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end of that. I mean, it's like if you ask a 2-year-old, can you locate yourself? See what the answer you'll get. Or if you do the same with a dog, you'll get the same answer, which is not an answer. No answer. All I'm saying is that there's no answer. Do you see what I mean? That's really what I'm saying to these questions, which can be quite complex. Like, there's a question about where am I located? What is the metaphorical position on I don't know, money or something like that. There's no questions here. This is a kind of blankness. That's what it is, just a sort of blankness in a way. It's a sort of like a kind of it. I'm not saying that I'm not interested in your questions, but there is a kind of complete disinterest in it. It's something that is kind of like irrelevant, because there is just this immediacy. In immediacy, just this. Well, I don't need anything else. That is just this. So the other questions become kind of like, why is we talking about that? That's what comes up here is, why is it about that? Why are we discussing that? It's this, so.
Well, thank you then very much for entertaining all these questions, because I know what you mean. They must be irrelevant.
No, not at all. No, it's I'm just trying to describe it, a bit for you. Yeah, but
yeah, no, I understand.
It's not that when I was seeking, these same things would be what it is expressed from the me state. Just expresses like that. Those questions, right. I was always in that kind of spin of like, where am I located? What this, that, all of these questions, looking for something, right. Observing something, looking for something, for what seems like an extremely long period of time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I in the story, it was a very long time. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure, yeah. Jamie, yes.
So I had another question. It's kind of a little bit more of a challenge, but it was spawned from me doing like a thought experiment about just like how far these concepts reach. And if you don't mind me asking, I don't mean like any disrespect with the question or anything, but I was thinking about Monty Python. At the end of one of their movies, they have a bunch of people nailed the crosses and they're all singing a happy song, and it's like kind of like this juxtaposition where you would expect like an extreme amount of suffering, but you see happiness and like song telling instead. And so I was thinking about like in the most extreme situations in the world where you have like a knife through your gut, there could still, that doesn't block the fulfillment whatsoever, does it? Like
it's what is, and there can be, I mean, it's what is. There's nothing to say if you're, you know, stabbed or something. There's just pain, but it's not pain. My pain. It's pain.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's
That's
not.
what I
There's
was
no
getting at.
story attached to that. It's just pain.
Right.
Yeah.
The pain, it's not like there's not going to be any pain, or that's going to be some glorious experience of
Oh
like,
no. The
right.
pain and the pain, the pain is an unfiltered pain. It's not. It's very direct, immediate pain. Yeah. But there's no story. It's not my pain. It's just pain. It's just what's happening, what seems
Yeah.
to be happening.
Thank you.
That's it. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. There's no. Yeah, and of course, there can be a very strong avoidance of that pain, a very immediate avoidance of that pain, and very much a very quick response. Yeah,
Right. Thank you for clarifying.
sure. Adriana, hi. Yes, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did something happen here? Okay. Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. Yeah.
I'm a little late to the meeting. I passed it. Anyway, so I was thinking, when you meet with other people, you know, at work or, you know, friends,
Yeah.
and they talk about, you know, what happened last week and it was such a
Yeah.
terrible, and they keep on going on over and over about the same thing in the past, right?
Yeah.
Or their
Yeah.
past. What does it happen? I mean, how is it for you to listen to this? I mean, would you feel like saying, well, you know, who cares? You know, it's happened already, or you try to tell them, oh no, this is already past, or you know what I'm saying, or just
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's clear that there people tell stories, right? I mean, we know that.
Yeah.
So and you know, it's also clear that some people will go over and over and over those stories, the same stories, and that can be uncomfortable to listen to, and so there can be a sort of you know, movement away from that. Yeah, or there can be anything can happen, you know, listening to a story. anything can happen. It can be something that where spontaneously there's just an expression that's, you know, it may be that I would make a comment and I may not, you know, it's just yeah, it's not there's not a set rule.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
Depending who is talking, right? Is
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
that
It
you don't
depends
care
on who's
about, or someone that
yeah.
you care about, and
Right.
yeah.
And also if you know, not everybody is necessarily open to this expression.
Yes.
So to then, you know, say that to somebody, it's just, in a way, it's completely irrelevant for them. What they want, or what they want is something that, you know, perpetuates their story, you know, that carries that on, and
Yes,
this won't supply that anymore. You know, we won't supply the furthering of those sort of stories.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I thought so. Yesterday, I happened to be with someone that was like going on and on about something that happened, and I was thinking, okay, so I didn't say anything at all. I just let her speak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, I thought, oh, how would it be? You know, here
I
I
mean,
think,
it's just, in a way, it's kind of like, you know, there can just be again, that's energy, you know, that expression of the story being coming out in that way is just energy expressing itself.
Right.
And so there is either an attraction to that energy, the way that it is expressing, or there's not.
Right. Because it's also what is. It's what's happening.
It's just what is. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not yeah, there's no rules. There's no like fixed way expression. It's just energy. Everything is energy. And there is a attraction or repulsion, if you like, towards that, apparently.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Bye.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, David. Thanks for answering yet another question.
Yeah.
So it's not so much a question as a comment. Like, the power of projection here is incredible. I'm looking at you on the screen, and I know that it's the same here, but you know, the me state is covering that all up. So there's no ability to discern me from no me, right? But so I'm looking at you and projecting a person onto you, like, and so your answers are coming from a person, and I know that the words are just coming out of like your mouth as they are here, but again, there's an illusion here, and it's a deeply felt illusion.
Yeah.
Even though each word,
that's in a way, that's the sort of trouble about, you know, speaking about this is that, yeah, there can be that sort of projection that this is sort of coming out of some sort of knowledge or understanding about something, and it is actually just totally empty. And also it's not ever, as I was mentioning before, it's not ever answering anything. It's very useless. It's a totally useless expression, because it's not really helpful in any way. So it's yeah, I mean, and you know, when you look at the nuts and bolts of that, then you kind of go, well, actually, you know, what's the point of all of that, you know? And there isn't any. There is no point. There is no there's no purpose to this, no meaning to this. Because there can't be, how could there be a meaning or a purpose to any of this? There doesn't need to be. It's just this immediacy. Immediacy doesn't need a meaning or a purpose or any of these kind of ideologies around that. It's so complicated, having meaning and purpose, extremely complicated. But the me does projects that. Yeah, it projects that because that's what it's seeking. It projects whatever it's seeking.
right.
Yeah. So if you're seeking knowledge, you'll see somebody talking about, you know, nothing, and you'll see them as a very wise person, you know, or a guru, or, you know, something like that. That's how that is, you know, that kind of, in a way, that's how it's formed. But actually, there's nothing that can be, you know, there's nothing that can be understood.
Right.
So yeah, it is projection. The sense of separation. Another voice, if you like, a voice. I call it the voice of the me state. You know, a voice of the me state. Another expression of the me state is projection.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. what a contrast, like, because the me state is just seems to be so complex with so many layers and, you know, projections and
or
everything.
variations on
Yeah.
the same theme, you could say.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what a contrast to what's there, like to the non-me state. What a
Yeah.
contrast that is.
Well, I mean, yeah, in a certain way, you could call it a contrast. I mean, I think it's more that it's just the absence of there being, in a way, a quality that's kind of seeing what the difference is between me and not me. The thing that's actually looking to kind of, that's sort of evaluating the contrast. You know, that's the thing. It's the evaluation, it's the evaluating quality that is trying to figure it out, what it will feel like. It's creating a fantasy about what it would be like when there isn't me. And you will never, there's nothing that can know that.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise that would be claiming, you know, some things, oh yeah, I've got it. No. That's still grasping, that's still the seeking quality that's going on, and then it just stops.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I guess it's written something. Yeah, I understand less and less of what is being said, so can relate to what David is saying in the beginning about dumbness. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's because this doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't, you know, what is being expressed here doesn't make any sense. It's not about something making sense. It's, in a way, the end of the need to make sense of everything, the end of the requirement or the end of the drive to find that the solution to everything. There's no need. There's just no need. There's nothing that's required of you. All there is what seems to be happening. All there is this immediacy. And, you know, to coin the beautiful Tony Parsons, all that you long for is already this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for today. Really lovely to see everyone.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
David.
Take care, guys. See you next time.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take